Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Friday. The Friday before a 3-day weekend. Hi, hello. How the heck are you on this Friday afternoon here on 580 Sports Talk? Whether you're listening on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online worldwide at 580wibw.com, or if you're checking us out on the video stream on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, or on Facebook, WIBW News. However you're consuming the show today, appreciate you spending your last few hours before a 3-day holiday weekend with us. I am Dan Lucero. I'm the only one of the Three Musketeers in the building today. Everybody else knocked off a little early for their Memorial Day holiday, as Spencer Dupuis is out. Brendan Dworzinski is out. They will both be back next week. So it's just me and Trenton Craxner across the glass. You'll see Trenton throughout the show on the video stream. Wave hi to the people, Trenton. Say hi to the people, Trenton. You can talk.
How's it going, everyone?
Trenton Craxner across the glass. He is running the show today. We will be with you until 5 o'clock this afternoon/evening. We'll knock off ourselves an hour early, get out of the way for those red-hot Kansas City Royals. Royals starting a 3-game series at Tropicana Field in Tampa tonight. First pitch against the Rays. Coming your way at 5:50 p.m., so they're going long on the pregame show. Can only imagine what kind of pregame interviews they've got for essentially 10 extra minutes of pregame to cover. But they will take the reins at 5 o'clock, which means we are with you from 2 to 5 here this afternoon. And to everybody asking on the YouTube live chat, no, they didn't abandon me. I just, I am in a position where my wife and I are very much on baby watch. So there's no holiday for us to be going on for Memorial Day. Baby could come today. I'm just going to level with the folks who are listening to the program today. My wife is 38 and a half weeks pregnant. I could get the call. Right now, I am Scotty Scheffler at the Masters. If you recall, when Scotty Scheffler won the Masters, his wife was also quite pregnant with his first child. And he told anyone who would listen at the Masters, hey, look, if I get a phone call, I'm out of here. I am going to go be with my wife and our child and see the birth of our child, even if that means leaving the Masters. I think a sports talk show is a little bit lower stakes than the Masters, but just know if my phone rings, I'm out of here, and we'll figure out what we got to figure out in the short term to get us to 5 o'clock. But just know this thing, I'm holding the phone on the video stream. That goes off. It might be deuces. It might be we get a very quick final word, then I'm out of here. So probably not going to happen. My wife had a checkup yesterday. Everything checked out great. They said, yeah, you're probably not real close. But again, you get to this stage, as anybody who's had kids knows, you get to this stage, you never know. So that's something to keep an eye on, or an ear to, as you're listening to the show today. We're excited to have you aboard. You can be involved with the show today. We invite and encourage you to weigh in on whatever it is that we're talking about on the YouTube live chat. As I mentioned, I want to say hi to everybody in the YouTube live chat. You can also comment on Twitter as well. You can comment on the Facebook page. We got people in from all forms of the video stream on the live chat now. Good afternoon to all of you. Look forward to interacting with you folks throughout the show. You can also hit us up on the Big O Tires text line. Excuse me, the Top City Metal Supply text line. That's a throwback. The Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. Again, everybody's a little distracted today. It is the last day before a holiday weekend, and we've got a great big show planned for you today. We easily could have done 4 hours today. There's lots to get to. We will talk some Royals baseball, taking stock of where the Royals are entering the Memorial Day weekend, where they are at this stage of the season, why one baseball insider refers to the Royals as confounding, and some good news about this team's desire and urgency to add to this ball club. Also, the Royals made a transaction today. They have added to their bullpen. I think it's a good thing. We'll discuss that a little bit more as well. But we got all kinds of Royals to talk about as they get ready for their 3-game series starting tonight at the Trop. Also going to talk some Big 12 hoops. 24/7 Sports put out an early list of Big 12 basketball power rankings. KU, where you would expect them to be, there's a pretty defined hierarchy in the league. I think even as rosters stand now, it's going to be really hard for anybody to crack the top tier or anybody from the bottom tier to crack the middle tier. K-State's in the middle tier, but they're at the bottom of the middle tier, according to this author. And I want to discuss that because I think K-State is maybe being a little bit underrated in the preseason, way too early Big 12 basketball power rankings. Speaking of college hoops, what a sentence to read at ESPN.com earlier today. The NCAA and its 5 power conferences have agreed to allow schools to directly pay players for the first time in the 100-plus year history of college sports. Amateurism died last night. And I say, good riddance. It should have died years and years ago. Good riddance to the outmoded amateur model. Good riddance to the student-athlete model. This is a good thing, but it is also a very confusing future that college athletics will chart from here forward. The segment we'll do on that is as much educational for me as it may be for some of you, but the broad stroke idea of the revenue generators for these athletic departments now being able to get a slice of the pie, a real tangible cut of the revenue they generate beyond, well, we'll build you this fancy locker room. Well, we'll give you this meal card. Well, we'll give you access to these facilities. No, real cold, hard cash that these athletes in the revenue sports have been generating for years and years and years. This isn't new. College sports did not yesterday become $1 billion business. And now these revenue-generating athletes will be treated like they are the ones generating the revenue, and they get their hands on a piece of the pie. And I say that is only a good thing. It was immoral to continue the charade of amateurism any further. It always had been, and now it is dead. And good riddance to the NCAA model. Good riddance to amateurism. But where does everything go next? We'll talk about that. Pete Thamel, Ross Dellinger, Pete Thamel of ESPN, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo, both put out some good stuff about what happens next. And the short answer to that is nobody has any idea. So we'll get to that in the 3 o'clock hour. Also in the 3 o'clock hour, Matt Derrick's going to join us to talk some Chiefs, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. We'll get his thoughts on OTAs, what he noticed, and some other Chiefs and NFL topics as well. That's coming up at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. Matt Derrick will join us, as he does every Friday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Because we're short today, we've only got 3 hours instead of 4. We'll do our sports headlines at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, including a playoff roundup. We'll also crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion. And we'll get out of here on a fun note. We'll do a little Ask Me Anything. We'll do a little, we'll do some fun stuff at the tail end of the 4 o'clock hour and have a good time going into the weekend. Because let's be real honest about it. You folks who are out there on your grind, even going into a 3-day weekend, 4 o'clock on a Friday, what are you really getting done? So we're not going to hammer at it too hard in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. And again, encourage you to be involved via the YouTube chat function, the Twitter and Facebook chat functions, and of course, the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Let's jump into some Royals baseball. I mentioned yesterday that historically, being in a playoff spot heading into the Memorial Day weekend tends to bode pretty well for making the playoffs. You might not think so, but it's fairly common that a lot of the teams that are going to play in October are in the playoff positions right now. You go back to 2023, on the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, the Friday of, let's call it, the Friday before the long weekend, the Friday before Memorial Day, the standings that morning of the 12 teams, 6 in each league, that were in a playoff spot on that day, 9 of them made the postseason. The only exceptions were the Yankees in the American League. Toronto got in instead of the Yankees. And the Mets and Pirates in the National League. Miami and Chicago got in instead. In 2022, the first year of the expanded 12-team playoffs, it was 8 of the 12 teams, 4 in each league, that were in playoff position before the Memorial Day weekend and stayed in the postseason field. Minnesota and the Angels didn't make it in the American League. Cleveland and Seattle, who both started really slow in 2022, ended up getting in instead. Over in the National League, Milwaukee and San Francisco did not make the playoffs. Philadelphia and Atlanta both did. Back in 2021, when it was a 10-team field, 7 of the 10 teams that year who were in playoff positioning made the playoffs. Oakland, the Mets, and San Diego missed out. Houston, Atlanta, Milwaukee got in instead. But you get the idea. It's 70 to somewhere between 66 and 75% of teams that are in playoff spots right now are going to get in the playoffs. So who's in the playoffs? In the American League, the Yankees, the Guardians, and the Mariners are your 3 division leaders in that order in terms of the standings. The Yankees and Cleveland would have the first round byes if things ended today. Seattle would play the worst of the wild card teams. That's Minnesota. The other 2 wild card teams, the Baltimore Orioles and your boys in blue, the Kansas City Royals, who are, by the way, 6 games clear in the win column of Boston, who right now would be 7th in the American League standings. That's a 6-game cushion. That's a week's worth of baseball. That is the cushion the Royals have already built in the wild card race in the American League. And, of course, they're only a game and a half out of first place behind Cleveland. Over in the National League, if you're curious, it's Philadelphia, Los Angeles, the 2 teams with the best records. Philadelphia's got the best record in baseball. They are killing everybody. They just swept the Rangers, and the series wasn't even close. Philadelphia and the Dodgers have the 2 best records in the National League. Milwaukee leads the Central. The wildcard teams, Atlanta, Chicago, and San Diego. I believe those are the only 6 teams in that league who are over 500. I think everybody else in the league is 500 or worse. So that's a pretty clear-cut hierarchy over there in the National League. But, again, the historical trends will tell you that it's really good to be in this position right now. It's really hard to go way backwards. So a lot of the teams that are in a playoff spot right now get the job done. Here's some more encouraging stats about the Royals' start. This from Tom Verducci, who published a column today at sportsillustrated.com. The title of the article, "The Royals are the most confounding story in baseball right now." Here's what Verducci had to say. The Royals stand at 32-19. Here's Verducci. Only 63 previous teams in the wild card era started a full season 32-19 or better through 51 games. Only one of those 63 teams, and the wild card era goes back to 1995. So modern expansion era baseball here. Only one of those 63 teams that have started 32-19 or better finished with a losing record. That's the 2021 San Diego Padres. We just talked about them. They were in a playoff position in 2021. They did not make the playoffs. Their manager was a glorified gym teacher. Also, they're the Padres. And this is what the Padres do. This is who they are. They find ways to screw it up. That's just the Padres. They finished 79-83 despite a 32-19 start in 2021. More from Verducci. All but 8 of the previous 63 teams to start this well won at least 90 games or made the postseason. So this start bodes really, really well. And Verducci also points out that only one team has ever made the playoffs in a full season the year after they lost 100 games. It's the 2017 Twins. So the precedent for what the Royals could potentially do, go from 109 in the loss column to postseason baseball, that's relatively unheard of. But this team, as currently assembled, is so different from the team assembled last year. I don't look at this Royals team and think about the 109 loss team. Not a lot of the same guys. There are only 7 of the 26 on the opening day roster who were regulars on the 2023 Royals team. And even some of those guys aren't really around. Like Jordan Lyles pitched 5 innings for the team this year. And then he took his personal leave, and we haven't heard anything new about that. Certainly hope everything is okay with Jordan and his family. But the point is, he was not just a big part of last year's team in terms of how often he pitched, how many innings he consumed, but he was also not very good. And the Royals have replaced him in their starting pitching rotation. If you consider he was the number 2 starter last year, this year's number 2 starter is Seth Lugo. That is a glow up. That is a substantial difference. So I don't look at this team and think about them in league with the 109 loss team. This is essentially a completely different ball club. Are they overperforming their expectations? Absolutely. But this is not a team, and we've been saying this in a variety of different ways, but I want to say it again. This is not a team that we should suddenly expect to start playing like a 109 loss team, even if there is a shoe to drop. And there may very well be. I don't think they're going to play like a 96 win team all season. They've played at a 96, 98 win pace. I don't think they're that. I don't think they're going to go 98 and 64. But I think that when there is a tough stretch, when another shoe does drop, it's not going to look like a 109 loss ball club. I think that they've established that their floor is a good deal higher than that. Something else that Verducci points out in the article, he writes about why the Royals could be successful, why they're more like the 1903 Giants is the example he uses. I love only baseball, right? Only baseball can you look at a team and say they could be like a team in 1903. Like only baseball lets you do this. The modern 1903 Giants improved by 36 wins in the regular season. They won 36 more games than they did the previous year. So for the Royals to do that, because they went 56 and 106 last year, my mistake. I had the math backwards. They were 56 and 106 last year. Not 109 losses, 106 losses. I don't think they're a 106 loss team either, for the record. 56 wins last year, a 32 win improvement would get them to 92 wins. 36 win improvement. Why are the Royals more like the 1903 Giants? The rotation, the defense. Only the Dodgers and Blue Jays have a better defensive run saved total so far this year. The Royals put the ball in play. These are Verducci's reasons. Only the Astros have a lower strikeout rate as a team than Kansas City. The Royals lead the majors with a 3.08 average with runners in scoring position. They have Bobby Witt Jr. having an MVP caliber season. And then this note from Verducci, quote, the Royals are going to add to this roster. A source familiar with the club's trade talks said the team is already having internal discussions about which players to acquire before the trade deadline. An indication the team views this fast start as a postseason opportunity rather than a we're ahead of schedule victory lap. It's most likely Kansas City adds an outfield bat and pitching depth. Anybody who's paid even a modicum of attention to this team knows those are the weaknesses. That is what they need to address. The Royals are in a tricky spot as that goes. Like back in 2015. 2015 Royals are a great example of a team pushing in all their chips and hitting the jackpot, winning the World Series thanks to the contributions of their big ticket trade deadline acquisitions. Johnny Cueto might not have had a great finish to his regular season, but he was lights out in the playoffs. Ben Zobrist was so good for the Royals in those final 2 months in the postseason. It was a running gag between Jake LeBon and I back when it was just the two of us hosting the show. And we were doing the show late 2016 and into 2017. When those Royals teams, they were competitive, but they never got really close to postseason baseball at the end of both of those seasons. But when we used to take the show out on the road and people would come and talk to Jake and I during 2016, 2017, we would hear it ad nauseum from Royals fans. People telling us, man, I wish they would have kept Ben Zobrist. I wish they could have found a way to keep Ben Zobrist. I don't know that there's a more beloved 2-month rental in Royals history than Ben Zobrist. But to my point, the Royals that year, they pushed their chips to the middle of the table, and they traded from what was at the time still a pretty well-regarded farm system. This Royals farm system is the opposite of that. This Royals farm system is generally regarded as one of, if not the worst, in all of Major League Baseball. There were some rankings going into this year that had them with the 30th best out of 30 teams farm system in the major leagues. Little tougher to go deep into that farm system and make meaningful additions. I do not think that there is a Johnny Cueto or Ben Zobrist type acquisition that the Royals can make without stripping the top off of what is a pretty thin farm system. The good news for the Royals is I don't think they need to make an addition quite like that. I think they'll be fine making the kinds of additions that might only cost you a 19-year-old developmental arm or two. I think you can go get a 2-month rental reliever or a 3-month rental reliever for that cost, for that low cost. So that's, though, Tom Verducci is one of the most tied-in insiders covering Major League Baseball, saying not just the Royals would like to add to the roster. No, he says the Royals are going to add to this roster. Reasons for skepticism. Verducci writes why the Royals are more like the 2021 Padres. The schedule has been soft. Kansas City has the worst hitting outfield in Major League Baseball, including a 589 OPS, which would be the worst ever for an outfield in a full season. And the Royals bullpen has the lowest strikeout rate in baseball and has a higher whip than any bullpen, whip being walks plus hits divided by inning pitched. Higher whip than any bullpen except the one in Colorado. Maybe you don't know what they've been up to. Unfortunately, I am all too aware. That bullpen blew a 4-0 seventh inning lead and a 9-5 11th inning lead against Oakland yesterday. Lost 10-9. Walked in the winning run on 4 pitches. That bullpen stinks. They give up a lot of base runners. They're the only bullpen to give up more base runners than the Royals bullpen has to this point. So, yes, obviously there is a need for upgrades in the bullpen, in the outfield, but historical precedent suggests this group has what it takes to continue on an upward trajectory and is more likely than not, and Fangraphs and baseball prospectuses or baseball references playoff odds would tell you the same. They've got the opportunity to go and make the postseason this year. And it's a better than coin flips chance, according to those odds systems so far. Royals and Rays this weekend. Again, it's Seth Lugo on the bump tonight. Sean Armstrong going for the Rays. He'll pitch in an opener role. This is not the Rays team that was a juggernaut for the better part of the first 4 months last year in the American League before they sputtered right around the time their franchise shortstop got caught up in a sex scandal that has probably eroded his entire Major League Baseball career. Like, I don't think we're ever going to see Wander Franco again. I think he's done as a Major League Baseball player. I think he's thrown that all away, and it's a tremendous waste of talent. But I don't think the Rays have been the same team since then. They got bounced from the playoffs immediately, and this year they're right at 500. They're overperforming their run differential. They've been outscored by 40 runs this year. They don't hit for a lot of power. They're 13th in the American League in home runs. Yandy Diaz won the batting title last year. He's hitting just 255. Randy Arozarena's off to a miserable start, which is a bummer because Randy's a super fun player. Their pitching staff as a whole, not as deep as it has been. They're hoping to get some guys back in the second half from some surgeries. Maybe Shane McClanahan, maybe Jeffrey Springs, maybe Shane Baz. But right now, this is just kind of a middling team and a team that the Royals should be able to go with the way that they've pitched and the way that they played on this last homestand. They should think series win. We've talked about it. Play 500 ball on the road and win at home. The Royals have been a juggernaut at home, 19-8 at the K, and they've done well to tread water away from home. They've got a 7-game road trip coming up, 4 in Minnesota after this, but this is a gettable series, particularly with Seth Lugo starting it off and taking the baton from a starting pitching rotation that was fabulous in the 6-0 homestand this past week. Royals made a roster move today, too. They have designated Tyler Duffy for assignment. They have recalled Carlos Hernandez from his rehab assignment down at AAA Omaha, so the hard-throwing right-hander will rejoin the bullpen. Why did I save that for the end of this segment? Because it's going to be a topic on Change My Mind. We're going to get Trenton's thoughts on the Royals. We're going to do a little Change My Mind. Trenton's going to get involved. Want you to get involved. Hit us up in the YouTube comments. Hit us up on the Top City Mail Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We're just getting started on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Back after this. It's 2:33 on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started. I'm Dan. Trenton's across the glass. We're going to get Trenton involved in a game of Change My Mind. Trenton, the way this works is we come in strong with a fuego take, and we try and get the other person to either budge off of it, or we say, actually, you know what? That is a good and true and correct take. So here is my first Change My Mind. I mentioned it had to do with the Royals roster move today. Change my mind. Carlos Hernandez will be one of the more reliable Royals relief arms the rest of the season.
Honestly, I would agree with that because I was talking to my dad before I came here, watching the KU game. They brought in Hunter Cranton, who's throwing 98 to 100 for KU. Carlos Hernandez is exactly what this bullpen needs, a flamethrower. They don't have anyone in the bullpen that throws super hard. And Carlos Hernandez is going to be that back end of the guy that throws hard that they've been missing all year. And I think it's going to boost the bullpen to a new height that we haven't seen so far this year.
They got a bullpen full. I won't say they got a bullpen full of thumbers. That's not quite right. Like James MacArthur can bring it 96, 97. We've seen Angel Zerpa run it up in the mid 90s. Nick Anderson can run it in the mid 90s to no great effect, but he can do it. Carlos Hernandez comes in throwing 99, 100 miles an hour, struck out 77 guys in 70 innings last year. They need some gas in the bullpen. And I have said this, when it comes to relief pitchers, give me the ability to throw it by somebody and we can work with the rest. Like, obviously, walked 4 guys per 9 last year. That's not great. Gave up 10 home runs in 70 innings. That's real bad. But I think that pitching at Kauffman Stadium gives a pitcher a chance to maybe stay away from some of those gopher tendencies. And I think that we have seen enough good stuff from the Royals pitching development staff to suggest that they can get something more out of a guy with an arm that is as naturally talented as Carlos Hernandez is. I'm not saying, plug him into the 9th inning right away, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's working some high leverage to positive effect. I mean, there was a moment last year it looked like he was going to be the closer. He ended up with 4 saves last year, and then he couldn't keep that job. Ended up with 10 losses out of the bullpen last year, which is a lot. But I'm bullish. I'm optimistic about the power arm coming out of the bullpen. The Royals have been lacking that. The guy he replaced on the big league roster, Tyler Duffy, was out there throwing 90, 91, 92. Chris Stratton's not a hard thrower. Will Smith isn't a hard thrower. They need some power arms, and I think Carlos Hernandez has a chance to be that. Now, it doesn't look like I'm going to change the minds of the folks in the YouTube comments. Our guy Lenny Dawson is in the chat. What's up, Lenny? Says Will Smith should have been the one they let go today. Will Klein looked good during his short time with the Royals. We've seen enough of Carlos Hernandez. It's time to cut the cord. I'm also intrigued by Will Klein. That's another big arm that could come out of the Royals bullpen long term. And I'm in favor. Like anybody who can come in throwing hard, I want to see what that looks like. And I think there's going to be an opportunity for Will Klein that arises later on this season. But right now, the roster rules being what they are, this was the time to get Hernandez up, and it was a really easy, straightforward swap, Hernandez for Duffy. But I'm optimistic. Christopher, another one who I have not changed his mind, perhaps. I just keep remembering last August, Christopher says in the YouTube chat, when Hernandez allowed 4 8th-inning or later home runs to lose 4 different games. If he can keep it over the plate and keep it in the yard, he's golden. Much easier said than done, but the strikeout stuff. We just mentioned the Royals have the worst strikeout rate out of their bullpen in all of baseball. Even worse than Colorado, which I don't think the Rockies actually teach their pitchers that strikeouts are good. I genuinely don't think that's how they coach and manage their team. But this big right-hander with the big arm is going to help increase that strikeout rate and the ability to get out of jams. How do you keep traffic off the bases? How do you keep those big inning blowups from happening? Strike guys out. And this is a skill set that the Royals bullpen has lacked, and I'm excited to see Carlos Hernandez bring it back starting tonight. Trenton, do you have a take for me?
Change my mind. The Royals will be buyers at the deadline this year.
100%. Like I said in the last segment, I think they're going to be kind of limited as to what they can buy. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to necessarily go out and get like a Ben Zobrist type of player, like a one-man difference maker, somebody who, like, Zobrist was so perfect for that Royals team because they had some holes and he could just fill whatever they needed filled on a given day. He was just so perfect for what that team needed. Right now, the Royals could use a steady veteran outfield bat and a bullpen arm or two. And those things don't cost you a whole lot. I don't think you're going to have to go and trade, the first round pick, not Gavin Cross last year, Blake Mitchell. Yeah, I don't think they're going to have to go trade Blake Mitchell to go fill their needs. I don't think they're going to have to trade Gavin Cross. I don't think they're going to have to trade their best pitching prospects necessarily. But I think that if they're willing to part with some, AA, single A arms or some Latin American talent in order to add at the periphery, because you don't need to go get a star. You've got stars. You don't need to go get an ace. You've got studs in your pitching rotation. You just need to fill it out. You need to raise the floor. Floor raisers. We talk about that. The Royals went after floor raisers in the offseason. Unfortunately, Hunter Renfroe hasn't raised this team's floor. Garrett Hampson hasn't raised the floor. Will Smith and Chris Stratton haven't raised the floor. So you got to go out and find some more floor raisers, and I think that's very attainable for the Royals.
And I think a good deal that I've seen people floating around on social media is Tommy Pham and Michael Kopech from the White Sox, because Kopech would be another hard thrower at the back of that bullpen. And Tommy Pham, despite not being signed until like beginning of this month, he did really good for the White Sox. I mean, you can't tell me he's not an upgrade over Renfroe or even MJ Melendez right now at the plate.
I agree. I brought up Tommy Pham's name, I think, on this program last week, and Brendan looked at me like I had just farted. Tommy Pham is maybe not the most popular guy in the world. He can be a bit of a red ass, but maybe this ball club needs a red ass. Like, that might be what this team needs is somebody who can play with that little bit of an edge and who's been on winning teams and played deep into October and helped teams kind of steady the back end of their roster like he did with Arizona last year. I'm in favor of the Pham pickup. Kopech, yeah, big arm. Be tough to get that package deal, I think, but certainly would be worth exploring if that opportunity were to arise. That's changed my mind here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, some too early Big 12 basketball power rankings. Where does KU stand? About where you'd expect. Where does K-State stand? Maybe not where you'd expect. That's next here on 580 Sports Talk. I promised you some Big 12 basketball talk, and we're going to get there in just a second. We're going to talk in the 4 o'clock hour when we do our headlines because we're done at 5 today. We'll get you some updates from state track, state softball, state baseball. But I have to mention what Wamigo's Peyton Hardenberger is doing at the softball state tournament. Wamigo and Clearwater played an 18-inning ball game yesterday. I believe it was 18 innings. And in the course of that game, which Wamigo ended up winning, Peyton Hardenberger, who is already committed to the University of Tennessee to pitch, struck out 30 batters. Went the distance. Pretty impressive performance. You think, well, maybe there's a fatigue factor that sets in. She might be a little tired going into the semifinals today against Eudora. Yeah, how about no? How about a 16 strikeout no-hitter in the state semifinals in Class 4A? Are you kidding me? That is awesome. Shout out to Peyton Hardenberger. That is an incredible performance. Wamigo's into the state title game in 4A softball. Rock Creek is into the state final in 4A boys, 4A baseball. Silver Lake softball into the 3A title game. Hayden baseball was up big on Hoisington at last check. They were up 8-1 in the third inning, and they could be on their way to a state championship game appearance as well. We'll update you on all of that in the 4 o'clock hour. Let you know the latest from state softball, state baseball, state track, the final weekend of the prep sports season in the state of Kansas. But Peyton Hardenberger deserved her own mention there because that is absurd. 30 strikeouts last night. Shake it off. Go throw a 16 strikeout no this morning. And I'll tell you what, I don't know who they're going to play in the final, but I wouldn't want to be them. I wouldn't be looking forward to that challenge. With respect to Andy Reid, I would not be looking forward to the challenge of facing Peyton Hardenberger. So, yeah, shout out to her. Shout out to the Wamigo softball team for making it to the championship game. Big 12 basketball. Isaac Trotter, 24/7 Sports, put out his way too early Big 12 power rankings earlier this week. And I've been wanting to talk about these and finally got a chance to get into them today. He's got Kansas number 1. Not a surprise. Kansas has plugged all of the holes that they had on last year's roster. They didn't have reliable three-point shooting. Now they have Rylan Griffin and Zeke Mayo. They didn't have secondary playmaking. Now they have Zeke Mayo and AJ Storr. They didn't really have the ability to space the floor for DeJuan Harris's drives. Mayo, Griffin, and Storr. Like, those are such major additions to this roster. It's going to enhance the skill sets of Harris at point guard, Dickinson in the middle, KJ Adams at power forward. This is a complete team, and it's a veteran team. And a bunch of old guys who played a lot of college basketball in the last year of the COVID-eligible player. I think that veteran experience is going to be maybe more important this year than it ever will be again, because you're just not going to see this many old college basketball players again because the COVID guys are going to be out of eligibility after this. So KU is taking advantage of that. They're going to be deep. They're going to be a veteran team. They've got the best coach in the league. You could tell me any one of their starters was first team all Big 12 at the end of next year, and it wouldn't surprise me. It truly wouldn't. So no surprise, KU is at the top of the list. Houston, number 2, Iowa State, number 3, Baylor, number 4, Arizona, number 5. Now, personally, I would put Baylor ahead of Iowa State, and this isn't just me being an Iowa State hater, which people who have listened to the show enough know that I'm not enamored with TJ Otzelberger and his style of basketball, but this is not me hating on Iowa State. I just think the level of talent on the Baylor roster is a little higher. I just think they've got more dudes. Iowa State's got very good players, and they obviously mesh well together. They're coming off of a great season. They returned the backcourt pretty much intact. The Momchilovich kid is back. Like, they got to find a big man, but they're going to be really good again. I just think Baylor's got more upper echelon talent. Jeremy Roach transferring in. VJ Edgecombe is a freshman. I like their top end guys better than I like Iowa State's top end guys. But I'm picking nits, right? Like Baylor 3, Iowa State 4 would be how I would do it. But KU, Houston, Iowa State, Baylor, Arizona, however you want to put them in order, that feels like the pretty clear upper echelon of the league. And I'd even be willing to separate the top 4 from Arizona if the Wildcats don't replace Caleb Love if they don't get him back. There's a lot of belief that he might withdraw from the draft process. I haven't. The next mock draft I see him in will be the first. So I think it's a decent chance Caleb Love is back for another year, and that will help Arizona be in that mix, be in that echelon of teams. But if he's not and they don't adequately replace him, then I would even set KU, Houston, Iowa State, Baylor even just a little bit ahead of what Arizona's got. Then they've got the next group of teams, and I think the next 5 teams feel like that's a peer group as well. Cincinnati, Texas Tech, TCU, BYU, K-State. Cincinnati 6th. That feels a bit high to me. I love the addition of Dylan Mitchell, but if they play him and Aziz Bandago together, they've got no floor spacing, and I just don't know how that works with all of their creating guards with no floor spacing around them. I don't know how that roster fits together. I like their talent on an individual level, but Wes Miller's got to make that work. Texas Tech, I don't think is done adding to their roster yet, and the author Isaac Trotter points that out. He's got them 7th, TCU 8th, BYU 9th, and K-State 10th. Now, I do think that K-State belongs with those teams. I think that's the peer group. I think you've got the top 5 in the league are pretty clear cut, and then I think there's a next 5, and then I think the bottom 6 are pretty clear too. For the record, the way they are ranked is UCF 11th, West Virginia 12th, Arizona State 13th, Oklahoma State 14th, Utah 15th, Colorado 16th. Man, Colorado's going to stink. They're going to be so bad. 2 of their 5 projected starters are transfers. One of them's from Division II. One of them's from the NAIA. And I am not going to disrespect the level of talent that is in place. We have seen guys come up from D2 and play great. Hell, Colorado, in their history, Derrick White, you're watching him in the playoffs right now. He was a D2 transfer that went to Colorado, I think it was all Pac-12. And now he's carved out an excellent NBA career. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I just don't think Trevor Baskin is Derrick White. And I have no idea what Elijah Malone is, but he's an NAIA transfer, and the difference between the NAIA and the Big 12, I think, is probably pretty vast. So, yeah, they're leaning on a lot of unproven guys, and I think it's going to be a really long year for the former Jayhawk Tad Boyle there in Boulder. Utah's not going to be any good. Oklahoma State's got such a long way to go. Arizona State, I think a lot of people wouldn't be surprised if they were 15th and you bump Utah and Oklahoma State up. First year coach at West Virginia. UCF kind of still figuring out what they're going to have to do to recruit, what level of player they're going to have to really be competitive in the Big 12. But K-State 10th, and this is what Isaac Trotter had to say. The pieces are starting to make sense for Jerome Tang. I'm quoting. Michigan transfer Doug McDaniel is going to put up numbers. The jitterbug point guard is so hard to contain when he puts it on the deck. Surrounding McDaniel with snipers is certainly a strong recipe, and Kansas State found a few net shredders in Max Jones and Brendan Housen. Providing McDaniel with a terrific pick-and-roll partner like a Chore makes so much sense, too. McDaniel is at the epicenter of this entire roster build. He just has to be good. I do think that McDaniel and his play are key to the whole thing. We've seen 2 seasons of K-State basketball under Jerome Tang. 1 year in which they got high-level point guard play, and 1 year in which they didn't get high-level point guard play. And this is not to say that Tyler Perry was bad. It just wasn't what it needed to be as a point guard, as a creating guard to make the offense make sense. Tyler Perry certainly had his moments. Tyler Perry certainly had some big games, played his heart out. I'm not here to knock Tyler Perry, but it wasn't what K-State got from Marquise Noel from a pure point guard perspective. 1 year they went to the Elite Eight, 1 year they missed the tournament. For me, Doug McDaniel being a natural point guard makes them better at that spot than they were last year. If you have a good point guard with knockdown shooting around him, your offensive ceiling is pretty high. I think K-State is still short 2 pieces. I think they need one more offensive creator, somebody who can get his own shot, get to the rim, be somebody who scores 15, 17 points a game, and can get some of that themselves. Maybe that's Arthur Kaluma if he withdraws from the draft. The other thing they need is an established big body center to bang and rebound and do some of the things that maybe physically a Chore not being 7 foot or David Gasson being a little slimmer and Baye Fall being so young and raw, maybe aren't cut out to do yet. If K-State can get both of those pieces, I think their ceiling is closer to 6th in the league than it is to 10th in the league. If they only find one of those pieces, I still think they can feel pretty good about their tournament chances. But that is, I think, the group that K-State belongs with. And I can argue for them above any of Cincinnati, Texas Tech, TCU, and BYU. BYU, for me, too reliant on the three, and doesn't seem like they're going to get Jackson Robinson back. I just think that they're going to be too reliant on the three, and they're going to miss my guy, the Egyptian Jokic, Ali Khalifa. They're going to miss him a lot. TCU is going to try and thread the needle between, they've got some veteran guys, but they're also getting real young. I don't think that, I think a lot of their success at TCU has been because they've had a bunch of old guys. Charles O'Bannon was like 32 years old playing college basketball last year. I think that they will take a step back this year, and I can argue K-State above them. I can argue K-State above Texas Tech as the Texas Tech roster currently stands. But if they get JT Toppin out of the portal, then that does a lot for the Red Raiders. And I can argue them above Cincinnati. They should have beaten Cincinnati last year. And again, Cincinnati's roster build, they got good players. Does the build make sense? Can they make it work? Can they get their 5 best guys on the floor and play coherent basketball together? I don't know if that's the case. Long way to go, obviously, still even in the offseason, but that's the way too early Big 12 basketball power rankings from 24/7 Sports. That's going to do it for the 2 o'clock hour of the show. In the 3 o'clock hour, we'll talk to Matt Derrick at the bottom of the hour, our Chiefs insider. But first, amateurism is dead. Thank God. About time. We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk after the news. Let's get it. Hour number 2 out of just 3 today on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Solo mission for yours truly, Dan Lucero. Trenton Craxner's on the other side of the glass, our producer engineer today. Brendan and Spencer both out and about and off today. They'll be back with us on Tuesday. We're all taking Memorial Day off, and we will be back with you on Tuesday for a fresh edition of 580 Sports Talk. Only got 2 more hours left today. We're getting out of the way at 5 o'clock for the Red Hot Royals. We'll see if the boys are playing any ball at Tropicana Field tonight. First game of 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays. First pitch at 5:50 p.m. Kind of an awkward start time, but 5:50 p.m. first pitch. Pregame at 5 right here on your home for the Royals since 1969, 580 WIBW. Still to come on the show today, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com going to join us at the bottom of this hour. We'll do our sports headlines in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also do What Is Wrong With You in the 4 o'clock hour as well, crown a weekly champion. We'll have some fun at the end of the 4 o'clock hour, too. So I'm going to put a call out right now. If you are watching the program on YouTube, our channel is 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Well, let me put a call out to do this first. If you have not yet subscribed to the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, no better day than today, because if you're a longtime listener to the show, you know how upset it makes our pal Brendan when people subscribe to the YouTube channel while he's not around. We got 4 new subscribers yesterday, which was pretty cool. Let's get some more today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube, go to YouTube on your computer, on your phone, tablet, whatever. Search for 580 Sports Talk. Hit that subscribe button. It'll let you know when we go live if you want to have notifications whenever we go live. It'll put all of our videos on the front page of YouTube. Doesn't cost you a dime. It infuriates Brendan. It's really fun. So go subscribe today to the YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. But if you are on the YouTube live chat today, or if you're watching on Twitter or Facebook as well, Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, and Facebook, WIBW News, or if you've got a phone nearby and you want to hit up the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We're going to do a little Ask Me Anything in the 4 o'clock hour, but I'm going to ask you guys something on today's show. I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. First of all, I want to know what y'all are going to get up to this Memorial Day weekend. You going out to the lake? You going to do some yard work? You going to barbecue? You going to go see some family, travel maybe? Kind of just chill and drink some beverages and watch some Royals baseball. I want to know what you're up to on this Memorial Day. So you can share that. And also, because as we have brought up here in the last week of the program, your friend Dan is impending fatherhood. Fatherhood is impending. My wife is pregnant. We are due in early June. So very soon I will be taking a bit of a leave of absence, taking some paternity leave. But for you parents out there, I want your best parenting advice. We're going to share some of that in the 4 o'clock hour. So share what you're doing on this Memorial Day weekend and share with me your best parenting advice in the YouTube live chat or on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And we'll have some fun with that a little bit in the 4 o'clock hour of the show. Again, thanks to everybody who's tuned in. Vance is in the YouTube live chat letting us know that Hayden is rolling bottom of the 6th in the state semifinal out at K-State. Hayden 12, Hoisington 1. So it looks like the Wildcats are just a few outs away from playing for a 3A baseball state championship. Silver Lake softball is going to play for a 3A title later today. We know that as well. Rock Creek and Wamego. Rock Creek baseball, Wamego softball will be playing for 4A titles. So congratulations to all those teams. And don't want to congratulate Hayden too early. An 11-run lead is pretty solid through 6 innings, but we'll wait until they finish the deal. But thank you to Vance in the YouTube live chat for the update there. Matt Derrick in just a little bit. We'll play a little on second thought in this 3 o'clock hour too, but I want to start with the big news from last night. The NCAA and its 5 power conferences have agreed to allow schools to directly pay players for the first time in the 100-plus year history of college sports. From Dan Murphy and Pete Thamel of ESPN. The NCAA and its leagues are moving forward with a multi-billion-dollar agreement to settle 3 pending federal antitrust cases. These are not the only federal antitrust cases currently pending against the NCAA, but 3 of them are being settled. The NCAA will pay more than $2.7 billion. That's billion with a B, $2.7 billion in damages over the last 10 years to past and current athletes. Sources have also said that the parties have agreed to a revenue-sharing plan moving forward, allowing each school to share up to roughly $20 million per year with its athletes. In a joint statement Thursday evening, NCAA President Charlie Baker and the 5 power conference commissioners said, quote, "The 5 autonomy conferences and the NCAA agreeing to settlement terms is an important step in the continuing reform of college sports that will provide benefits to student athletes and provide clarity in college athletics across all divisions for years to come. This settlement is also a roadmap for college sports leaders and Congress to ensure this uniquely American institution can continue to provide unmatched opportunity for millions of students. All of Division I made today's progress possible, and we all have work to do to implement the terms of the agreement as the legal process continues. We look forward to working with our various student-athlete leadership groups to write the next chapter of college sports." End quote. So the agreement still has to be approved by the judge, settles 3 of the many pending federal antitrust cases that the NCAA is facing. All Division I athletes dating back to 2016 are eligible to receive as part of the settlement class. Athletes can object to the settlement. They can opt out of the settlement class. But if they do receive a share of the $2.7 billion in damages, those athletes also agree to waive their right to sue the NCAA for other potential antitrust violations. A series of formulas devised by a sports economist will be used to decide how to split the money among more than 10,000 former and current athletes since 2016. Schools likely will begin sharing revenue in the fall of 2025. This is obviously a seismic day in the history of college athletics. It is the end of the amateurism model that college sports clung to by its fingernails for years and years, even as college athletics, particularly the main revenue sports of football and men's basketball, became million and then multi-million and then multi-billion-dollar businesses. It is over, and that is good. It is a good thing that amateurism is dead. It is a good thing that the NCAA's amateurism model is dead. It is a good thing that the athletes generating that revenue are going to get paid their money. And I can hear already the dissent, because this has been a conversation. I've been in sports talk radio over a decade, and I've been in it in a variety of different places, talking to a variety of different audiences. And I have never wavered in my belief that it was beyond time to pay these kids their money. That these kids were, particularly the revenue athletes, were employees in a billion-dollar business that were not receiving compensation for their work. And the response I would most commonly get from people who disagreed with that notion was, what about scholarships? Those kids get a free education. Those kids get a place to live. It's not nothing. You're right. It's not nothing. It's not tangible. It doesn't feed you or put money in your gas tank. It doesn't help your family, particularly. You can't send books. You can't send a roof back home to your parents who might be struggling. But here's the other aspect of this. I am in no way comparing myself. I have no room to compare myself to a Division I revenue sport athlete. But I went to college, and I had a scholarship. I went to DePauw University, Greencastle, Indiana. I'm a proud Tiger. You guys know this, especially around football season when I'm talking up the Monon Bell and all that stuff. Even though I have not been back to campus since I graduated in 2008, I am still a proud DePauw man. And I had an academic scholarship to attend DePaul University. DePaul is a Division III athletic institution. Division III schools do not offer athletic scholarships. It is not highly likely I would have gotten one anyway, but they do offer academic scholarships. And I had a decent chunk of my academic scholarship. It was sizable. It did not cover all of my tuition, but it covered a good portion of it. I was fortunate. I worked hard. I earned that. I worked hard in the classroom. I took a lot of classes, advanced placement classes, got good grades. I earned my scholarship. And I received my scholarship to attend DePaul University. I took it. And I went to DePaul, and I also had a job at DePaul. I worked for the campus radio station, WGRE FM, 91.5 on the FM dial, 1,000-watt stick. You got more than 5 feet out of Greencastle, you couldn't hear it. But your sound alternative, WGRE, proud WGRE alum. And I had a job at WGRE. I was on the board of directors. It was an entirely student-run station, so we had a student board of directors. And I was alternately the assistant sports director, and then I moved up and I became the sports director. I never applied for station manager. I didn't want all that responsibility. I just wanted to do my sports and have people leave me alone back in college. I wanted to do my sports. I wanted to travel and do the games and all that good stuff. And I got a stipend. I got paid for my work on campus. Now, I wasn't generating a lot of money for the campus by scheduling sports casts and writing sports stories and making sure stuff got on the air, scheduling board ops, things like that. I didn't make a lot of money doing it, but I made some money. I had a job on campus, and I was able to receive money for that. And that was real money I could go put in my bank account in addition to my scholarship. They didn't call me in and say, hey, we're going to dock. I don't even remember what it was. Honestly, per semester, it couldn't have been more than $700, $800. And I might even be exaggerating it. It was 16 years ago, guys. It's a long time ago. I've been out of college a while. They didn't call me into the president's office and say, hey, now that you're making some money, we got to dock your scholarship. We're gonna take some money out of what you've earned for your academics, the thing that made you appealing to us, the thing that made you appealing as a applicant to us. We're not going to dock that based on what you're getting paid. You still earn that scholarship, but also your work on campus is worth X amount of dollars, and this is you're going to be able to make that. Why should athletics be different? Why shouldn't we look at being a college football player, or frankly, a college anything, a college runner, a college swimmer, a college baseball player, softball player, football and basketball? Why shouldn't we look at that like a job? Because it is. You ask any college athlete, the hours they put in outside of regular business hours, the travel, the extra time you got to spend in the gym or working out to make sure that you're at your best for your team, for your coaches. It's a job. It's a job. And the fruit of that labor is in the tickets sold. It's in the TV deals. And the fruit of that labor is in the hundreds of millions for these Power 5 institutions. The numbers are out there. USA Today has the numbers. Now, private schools don't have to come up off these numbers, but the NCAA finances are available publicly. Ohio State generated over $251 million in athletic revenue in the 2022-23 sports year. Texas generated nearly $214 million. There were 5 public schools that generated over $200 million in athletic revenue. Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, and then, as I mentioned, Texas and Ohio State. University of Kansas generated $118 million in athletic revenue. That ranked 35th among all institutions that provide data. Kansas State generated over $100 million in athletic revenue. Now, that's not just because the band plays after first downs. That's not just because the stadiums look nice, because the weather is nice, because Allen Fieldhouse is so great. That's part of it, part and parcel of it. But what are you paying to see? Who are you paying to see? You're paying to see the players. You're paying to see the Avery Johnsons and the Jalen Daniels and the Hunter Dickinsons of the world. Their work, their effort generates revenue for the university. It is only fair that they finally start to receive a piece of that pie. And that begins in 2025. Now, how that works practically is going to be a challenge for athletic departments. But how athletic departments choose to answer that challenge is going to be really fascinating, because if you've got to spend more money, if you've got to come up off of up to $20 million in revenue, first thing you have to do, because Title IX is still in existence and it is not addressed in the settlement terms, so the terms of Title IX still apply here. You have to spend equally on the women's sports as you do on the men's sports. So how does that manifest itself? Or do universities just decide, well, you know what? We're not going to bother trying to fix that problem. We're just going to cut athletics. We're just going to start to cut sports. We're just going to cut a bunch of sports. Save the money that way. There will be absolutely some prominent institutions. I would even bet some Power 5 institutions that choose that kind of austerity, that just say, well, we tried everything. We're out of ideas. And we can't go backwards, right? We can't spend less money on these other things. We can't spend less money on the football locker room. We can't spend less money on this giant jumbotron we just put in the basketball arena. We can't spend less money on travel, because now we're in a league with a team that's in 3 time zones away from us. And we can't spend less on travel accommodations. Hell, we got to spend more. So austerity now, we're going to cut sports. We're going to cut the country club sports, or the non-revenue sports, the Olympic sports, whatever you want to call them. Country club sports is a little bit of a pejorative, but the Olympic sports, the non-revenue sports. You're going to cut cross country. You're going to cut swimming. You're going to cut maybe baseball. Remember Cal almost cut baseball a decade ago? There are schools in the current Big 12 that don't have baseball. Colorado hasn't had baseball for like 40 years. I have a feeling that is the direction a lot of athletic departments are going to try to go. And I think that would be a shame, because what this should do is cause some introspection from the university leaders and say, we are spending a lot of money on these athletics. We're generating a lot of money. Our TV deals are astronomical, but also we're spending a lot of money here. I think it's Clemson that's got the water slide in their football locker room. Alabama's football locker room is nicer than any NFL team's. I think Clemson built something like a $30 million gymnastics training facility. The dollar amounts that are spent on everything but the players are so astronomical. You could go backwards there and meet the difference in the middle, and maybe decide over the long haul, hey, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense to send our non-revenue sports to go play the same teams and the same schedules for the sake of television that our revenue sports are playing. It may make a lot of sense revenue-wise for Oregon football to be in the Big Ten, or for Stanford football to be in the ACC. But what the hell sense does it make for their non-revenue sports to be doing all that travel? None, right? Maybe this leads long-term to a little bit more sensibility when it comes to who plays who and who plays where and who's in what league for the non-revenue sports. Because those sports, even though they are not revenue-generating sports, they should survive. Nobody here is advocating for those sports to end. But now that you've got to share a piece of the pie with the sports that do generate all that revenue, namely football and men's basketball. And then there are some schools at which there are other sports that generate revenue. Like, I think women's basketball generates revenue at UConn. I think volleyball has been a revenue generator at the University of Nebraska. There are some sports that generate revenue or come close to a break-even point where they're not being fully subsidized by football and men's basketball at other schools. There are lots of examples. But from the standpoint of what is worth having on your campus, having a robust athletic department is still a good thing. It's still a way to attract students. It's still a way to be something that is a front porch for your school. They always say football is the front porch of your institution. That people will associate your university with your football team. If your football team's doing well enough, then you want them to associate your school with your football program. But there is still value in having a robust athletic department and not just cutting things down to the bare bones and saying, yeah, we got I want to say Colorado's got 6 men's sports. And skiing is one of them. They've got a very small athletic department. Having big athletic departments is still a good thing. But now it's going to take a little bit of imagination and a little bit of sensibility to say, okay, we got to pull back some of this money that we've spent on travel and we've spent on facilities, and some of this has to go to the players now. Okay, so be it. So maybe that new indoor training facility only costs you $20 million instead of $30. Maybe you don't give every chair in the locker room, in the men's basketball and the women's basketball arena, maybe every chair isn't a massage chair. Maybe it's just a really comfy office chair. Maybe you cut some costs there. But as we've discussed over and over again, the arrow's got to keep going up and to the right. And that's where the prospect of private capital, venture capital, entering the college sports world starts to come into play. And I'm telling you right now, private equity starts getting involved, this doesn't go anywhere good. This ends badly if private equity gets involved. Have you ever known private equity to get involved in something and it ended well? Private equity got involved in journalism. Look what's happened to your local newspaper as a result. When venture capitalists get a hold of, they own hundreds of newspapers. Look what happens to those newspapers. It never ends well. And if that's the route that these schools take, is that they look to private equity to float their athletic departments, boy, we're going to be in an even worse place. We're going to be in a really bad place if that's what ends up happening. But it is a brave new world, and it is something with now a lot more questions than answers about where we go from here. But one thing is for certain. The money generated by the efforts of these athletes is going to come back to them in a tangible fashion. And that is long overdue. And that is nothing but a positive. And for these athletic directors and university presidents that don't know where to go from here, don't know where they're going to have to cut costs or change some things, well, that is why you've been paid the big bucks, right? We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, a little on second thought, and then Matt Derrick's going to join us, our Chiefs insider, coming up here on 580 WIBW. Before we get to a quick round of On Second Thought and then have Matt Derrick join us, one last thought about this NCAA settlement in which universities will be able to share up to $20 million in revenue with the athletes who generate that revenue, up to $20 million. That sounds like a salary cap. Salary caps are everywhere. That's kind of what that sounds like, though, because you got some schools generate $200 million in revenue. Some schools generate $100 million in revenue. Some schools don't get to $20 million in revenue that are part of Division I that have revenue generating men's college basketball or football programs. Not everybody's going to have to break off that 20 mil, but the schools that do are going to be, I suspect, the first schools to cry poor about it and say, nah, this is too hard. Let's cut 12 sports. I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope there are better solutions than that. And they all remain to be seen. On second thought for the week. On second thought, I thought Anthony Edwards was supposed to be Michael Jordan, guys. He's failed to score 20 points in 3 of his last 4 playoff games. He's shooting 34% in his last 4 playoff games. I thought he was Michael Jordan, guys. What happened? Michael Jordan wouldn't do this. Michael Jordan wouldn't score under 20 points in 3 out of 4 playoff games. Game 2 of that Western Conference final tonight between Minnesota and Dallas. There's a chance Minnesota punched themselves out in the Denver series, and they're going to be a little too weary to take down Dallas. That's entirely possible, but we just got to cool it with the Jordan stuff. There's only one Michael Jordan, guys. We got to cool it with that. Trenton, you are not yet a professional take-smith, but is there anything that has happened in the world of sports in the last week that has maybe surprised you or deflated a preconceived notion you might have had?
On second thought, I think Dallas is going to win it all.
Do you think the Mavericks are going to win the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Doncic and Kyrie are very good. And, in that game 1 the other night, Minnesota hit 18 threes and Dallas hit just 6, and they still beat them on the road.
That's true.
They're definitely going to win the West. I think they might have the firepower to outduel Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in the finals.
So you're all in on Dallas.
Yes.
You're all in on Dallas. Who did you have before the playoffs? Who did you think was going to win?
Honestly, I like the Nuggets. I was kind of high on the Bucks if they got healthy.
Sure.
But they lost Dame, and they already had Giannis, never came back. So,
yeah, I still can't bring myself to watch any of it. I'm still sad. Like I get sad at little things. I walked in the mall yesterday. We were over at West Ridge Mall for the Catbackers event, and the Champ Sports has a big New Balance poster. It's Jamal Murray, and it just made me sad. I should still be watching you, Jamal. Get healthy, Jamal. Need you next year, Jamal. Anyway, that's on second thought. Matt Derrick joins us next to talk some Chiefs on 580 Sports Talk. Let's go to Kansas City and talk to our good friend Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Chiefs insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Friday at this time. Matt, how are we doing, my friend? Quite well. Looking forward to the 3-day holiday weekend. Any plans for the holiday weekend? Love that for you. I've got a lawn to mow and a pool to open. But other than that, I am also looking forward to nothing happening unless my wife decides to go into labor, which is entirely possible. We're 38 and a half weeks into that journey. So entirely possible that that happens. So we're kind of on his time. We're on baby time right now. But if that happens, it will be a much more eventful holiday weekend. Yeah. When looking down at my phone, my wife texted me during the last break. I'm like, uh-oh. But no, she's just telling me about some home improvement shopping that she's doing. So we're okay for now. Anyway, Matt, let's talk some Chiefs football. OTAs this past week. Anything you take away from OTAs, positive, negative? What would be your biggest takeaway?
Catching footballs in their shorts and with no pads and everything. But I was really impressed with the passing game. I mean, I recall last year, seeing that there were some struggles, the timing wasn't there, that people were working on some things, Mahomes and the receivers, weren't on the same page yet. And this was, we got to see day 3 of OTAs. I mean, it's still pretty early in the process. And I think you are already seeing some of the work that a lot of these guys have been putting in during the offseason paying off. I mean, Hollywood Brown looks like he's been in this offense a while. It does not look like his third practice with this team. And, and Mahomes said they got a lot of things done down in Texas, and that's translating up here. Their timing, especially on the deep balls, looks to just be impeccable. The chemistry seems to be coming along really well there. I think that, the entire room, Rashee Rice looks more comfortable than he did a year ago. We didn't get to see Xavier Worthy, so that's still, to come. But, you're hearing the right things as far as him asking the right questions and understanding the offense, being a smart player. I was really impressed with Jared Wiley at tight end. I thought he had some really good moments. And, and everybody else did too. I mean, the only guy who really had a rough day was Justin Watson, but, he's a veteran. You're hoping that's just something just one day moment, he'll shake it off. But everybody else, I felt like, showed, some real progress. And it looks like a deeper room than it was a year ago. And that's the first thing that jumped out to me for sure.
It was interesting to hear Mahomes address directly the need to get the deep ball back into the offense. Do you think that is something that Mahomes is really excited about, the sense of, man, if we can take the top off the defense again, it makes his job a little easier in a sense, that he's not working with as condensed a field as maybe he's been working with the last 2 years without that threat in the offense?
Yeah, last year, the last 2 years, you look at it, I think that, Mahomes had 63 attempts over 20 yards both seasons. So, they were still taking shots downfield. It was this that they went from completing like 40% to 28% and, go to 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. It was just totally un-Mahomes-like. They just had zero success with it last year, even though they were taking those shots. And as a result, teams kind of dared them to take some shots downfield because they were not having any success with it. And they were packing up close to the line of scrimmage. And he was seeing more, zero coverages, single high coverages. And the Chiefs struggled. There was no doubt about it. When you pack it in that tightly and you're able to pay a little bit more attention to Mahomes or to Kelsey and there's not other options to worry about, then that's what the Chiefs are hoping, that, this takes them back to more like 2018 and 2019 when, teams couldn't play single high against them. They had to have 2 safeties back. And, you had more than one option. You had Tyreek Hill, you had Travis Kelsey, you had a Sammy Watkins, you had another player to worry about. And they're hoping that they've got that now with Kelsey, with Hollywood Brown, with Rashee Rice, with Xavier Worthy. They're hoping that now that they've got more options, that, hey, you're going to have to play this team with 2 safeties deep. You're going to have 5 other guys defending. but you can't just double team a couple of guys anymore. I mean, you're going to have to leave some guys in single coverage, and they've got players now that can beat that.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt is our Chiefs insider on 580 Sports Talk. Find his work at ChiefsDigest.com. Find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Wanted to ask about some injured players coming back. You noted that Brian Cook and Nazeeh Johnson were getting some work in the defensive backfield. Cook obviously missed just the second half of last year. Johnson, unfortunately, suffered that ACL injury in camp. We didn't get to see him at all. But with those guys back out on the field, do you get a sense of the depth in that position for the Chiefs, and that they have a lot of guys, it seems like, that could fit in any role in that defensive backfield, whether it be safety, whether it be that third safety rover spot, a slot corner, an outside corner? We were talking on yesterday's show about how versatile that group seems to be, and that Jaden Watts, the rookie draft pick, seems to fit into that mold as well.
Yeah, and that was interesting to me because I asked Patrick Mahomes specifically just about his scouting report on the young receivers and the newcomers at receiver, and then he goes out of his way to bring up Jaden Hicks at safety, and that's legit. I mean, he was very impressive on Wednesday. He's a big player. You can see that. He had a couple of passes broken up during the screen team periods, and he looks like he really fits in. And now the Chiefs, I mean, they've got 4 legitimate safeties that I think they feel pretty good about. If Jaden Hicks is your 4th safety, that's a deep group. And Shamari Connor looks like he's going to be playing the same role that he did plus this year. I mean, he could literally be that. He looks like a Kendall Fuller type. He truly does, that the Chiefs had back when they had Tyrann Mathieu playing on one side and Kendall Fuller on the other, and you could really play those guys interchangeably. One could play deep, one could play up on the line and the slot, you name it. I can see now that they've got multiple guys that can do that. I mean, Shamari Connor and Justin Reed are playing that kind of position from safety, and I think Kamal Hayden is eventually going to be one of those guys who can play that kind of role, can play in the slot, maybe could drop back and play a little bit of safety if you needed them, not full time, but just kind of a nickel and a dime role. Trent McDuffie obviously is versatile enough to play different spots, and I think their quarterback depth is great as well. I mean, Joshua Williams, I think, probably has the head start right now. He's got the size and the physicality to play opposite Trent McDuffie, but then you've still got Jalen Watson, who I still think is a solid player. Maybe we're going to see a bigger leap from him in year 3 than we saw in year 2. Some guys, hey, it takes another year, and he was, I think, had a little bit, maybe a lower ceiling but a higher floor. And he started out maybe ahead of the Joshua Williams, but if he can kind of kick it in this year, I think you're feeling better about that. Like I said, Hayden and Haddon haven't gotten him to tell me how he pronounces his name yet, so I keep saying it both ways. So I'm at least right half the time, Dan. But I mean, Nick Jones is another guy that I thought looked really good this year. Looked really good on Wednesday. Echo Boydo, I mean, it's the same way. I mean, he looked more confident. I think the Chiefs are going to be fine at corner, even if they've got somebody who doesn't come along. I mean, if Nazeeh Johnson's not ready because, hey, first year back, maybe you're not usually back to 100% yet. If that's the case with him, I mean, I think the Chiefs have plenty of options.
Do you think the preference is to leave Trent McDuffie in the slot, or do you think they might be looking and seeing if they've got maybe another option that could fit in the slot and do some of the things that McDuffie was doing in that role last year, that they'd prefer maybe long-term to have McDuffie on the outside?
I think I would imagine he's going to play a pretty similar role to maybe what L'Jarius Sneed did in 2022 when he kind of started traveling a little bit. They picked his situations. I mean, he kind of did it more at the end of the season, but they kind of picked his matchups about when he traveled and when he didn't. I could see them doing that with McDuffie. I mean, they're both different players. So I could see maybe with McDuffie, maybe he doesn't travel with bigger receivers. Maybe, he's a 6'4" guy. Maybe you don't have McDuffie on him because he's a little bit smaller. But I could see him being someone who moves inside and outside seamlessly. He's obviously comfortable with it. As good as he is as a nickel, I think he's just as good outside. So I wouldn't have any problems with that. And I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to take advantage of it, at least during OTAs and camp, of giving all these young guys as many reps and looks in there at nickel as they can. I mean, Shamari Connor is going to be a guy that, that's going to play that spot. So I think they want to have him to have as many looks as he can. They want to see Haddon. They want to see if he can do it. Nick Jones may get some looks in there too. I mean, I think they want to see what they've got with everybody else since they know what they got in McDuffie. I still think it's more than likely he's going to play most of the snaps, the majority of the snaps on the outside this year. But it doesn't mean that you can't move him on the inside when you need to, especially against the tough slot receiver.
We were talking about Jaden Hicks on yesterday's show. Not Jaden Hicks. Who am I talking about? Is it Jaden Hicks?
The safety?
Yes, it is Jaden Hicks. Yes. Jaden Hicks, we were talking about him on yesterday's show. And it's a Friday. My brain's already half on vacation. My apologies. He's a player who, again, brings a lot of versatility potentially to that defensive backfield. Do you think, given his relative youth, he's only 21 years old, do you think that his role this coming season maybe looks kind of like Shamari Connor's last year, where it was he's pretty strictly depth, but if we've got to play him, we'll be fine with that? Or do you think there's a potential for a larger role for him?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think a big part of it, I think, is going to depend on Brian Cook and just how quickly he comes back from the injury and where he's at. If they need Hicks to be the number 3 safety early in the season, or to split time with Cook to give him some time, even splitting time with Connor. I mean, they're different players. I mean, Hicks is definitely a bigger guy. I don't think he's probably quite as quick and twitchy in some spots as Connor would be. So, I think even though they feel like he can play multiple positions, Hicks is probably a guy I feel more comfortable on a tight end than I would on a receiver, whereas Connor, I think, is vice versa. I mean, not that he can't cover a tight end, but you definitely feel comfortable with him on a receiver. And Hicks is, he's a bigger guy, so playing him in the box, I think, is more comfortable. But, that's the freedom that you have with that group, even though maybe he's not as position flexible as Connor is, because Connor might play 5 different spots. And Justin Reed can play, multiple 5 different spots. Hicks might have fewer, but, you've got the ability to, hey, if he's playing in the box, Justin Reed can still be on the field and be elsewhere. I mean, there's a lot of places where he can play. So I think there's a possibility. I mean, a lot of it, I think, is going to depend on the health of Cook, but Hicks might force his way on there. I mean, he's definitely going to be a Thor-faced special teams guy. He's just that good of a player and has got some really good instincts. But if they don't have to rush him, I think they'll take their time. But I could absolutely see him playing a bigger role if they need to.
Couple more minutes with Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt of ChiefsDigest.com. Something else we were discussing earlier this week, the best offseason moves made by each team. Mike Sando of The Athletic put an article out and mentioned the Chris Jones signing or re-signing is the best bit of business that the Chiefs have done this offseason. That's pretty hard to argue against. What would you say is the second best move the Chiefs have made in this offseason to date?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, I think it's going to be, Hollywood Brown. I mean, I just think that one player, I think, is going to make a tremendous difference in this offense, at least with what we've seen so far. There was an expectation on paper about what Hollywood Brown could be to this team, but seeing it after one day, I mean, this doesn't look like the same guy that, you saw the last couple of years in Arizona. And that's, I don't think, as much of a commentary on Brown. I think it's just a commentary on the situation. You take a player of that nature and you put him into an offense that's just not capable of anything. What's he going to do? I mean, he can't throw the ball and catch the ball himself. And, and he went to Arizona to play with Kyler, and Kyler gets hurt. So, maybe he was disengaged a little bit. I think it had still a lot more to do with just the fact that, without Kyler, and especially without him at full strength, that became just a very pedestrian offense. And, what are you going to do with a Maserati when you're a pedestrian, you've got a pedestrian quarterback? Seeing him paired with Mahomes, my goodness. I mean, it just looks like, this is what he's been waiting for. And I think you can see the excitement. I mean, he was absolutely playing with a lot of emotion on Wednesday. So I think that's going to be it. I will say that my sleeper pick for it, though, and we're only going to find out, knock on wood, if something happens to Patrick Mahomes. But Carson Wentz looks really comfortable running this offense too, and he looks like comfort level that, hey, this is not going to be a team that's in trouble if they had to play a few games without Mahomes. I think this team is absolutely capable of being 500 or even a playoff team on its own. if Carson Wentz had to play for a little bit.
About a minute here, Matt. I want to close with this. Back to the Hollywood Brown point you were making. Juju Smith-Schuster 2 seasons ago caught 78 balls for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't think he's the same kind of player as Hollywood Brown, but that kind of production, is that a reasonable expectation for Hollywood?
I mean, I really think it is. As much as I usually bet on the lower end for new receivers in an Andy Reid offense because it's a tough thing to pick up, Hollywood seems like a very smart receiver. His physical skill set is on a different level too. The experience is there as well. Plus, he's a young guy, so he's in better physical shape than Juju was, when he got here. So I think there's a chance that I wouldn't bet on it, but maybe I'll change my mind here. But he could be close to a 1,000-yard receiver, if not that kind of guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he put up Juju type numbers.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs for ChiefsDigest.com. He's on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and he's on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline with us as our Chiefs insider every Friday at this time. Matt, it is always a pleasure. Enjoy your whole lot of nothing this Memorial Day weekend, and we'll talk to you again next Friday.
Sounds great, Dan, and all the best to you. Hope everything goes well with you and your family.
Hey, thank you so much, Matt. That is Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Matt's just the absolute best. We always enjoy hearing from him on Fridays here on the program. That'll do it for the 3 o'clock hour. We've only got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk this week. We're getting out of the way at 5 o'clock for the Royals Radio Network. So coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll lead things off with our sports headlines, including some updates from state baseball, softball, and track, updates from the Big 12 baseball tournament, and a playoff roundup. We'll also crown a What Is Wrong With You champion for the week, and we'll play a little Ask Me Anything and have a Feel Good Friday coming up in this final hour of the show on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Final hour of the day and the week here on 580 Sports Talk. We are short an hour a day today due to Royals baseball. Royals and Rays opening a 3-game series at Tropicana Field. 5:50 first pitch, pregame 5 o'clock sharp. So this is our final hour for the week. Thanks for being with us here on 580 Sports Talk. I am Dan Lucero. Trenton Craxner is our producer engineer. It's a solo mission today. Brendan and Spencer both out today. They'll be back on Tuesday. We're taking Monday off. All of us taking Monday off, and we will be back on Tuesday. Thanks for being with us, whether you're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, worldwide at 580WIBW.com, or if you're checking us out on our video stream. Hi, everyone. We are on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. It's very funny when you do that when Brendan is gone. It makes him upset. Not in like a real way, probably. Maybe it really does. Maybe he loses sleep over it. I don't know. But subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't yet. Find us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. You can watch on Facebook, WIBW News. You can watch on Twitter. 580 Sports Talk is the Twitter handle. Even though they have changed the URL now to x.com, I will never stop calling it Twitter. I'm sorry. I will never do it. It is just like when they sold the naming rights to Arrowhead Stadium. And it is no disrespect to the company who puts their name on that so that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo have to say it. But I'm calling it Arrowhead Stadium. And I'm calling Twitter Twitter. I don't care what the URL says. That's Twitter. And we're on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk. You can watch us there too. You can interact with the show in the YouTube live chat and on our Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Want to hear from you. We'll do, for the last segment of the show today, a little Ask Me Anything. So if you've got questions for me and or Trenton, our producer engineer, get them in on the text line. Get them in the YouTube comments. Also, want to know, a little Ask Me Anything in the other direction. Want to know what you folks have planned for your Memorial Day weekends. And I'm looking for your best parenting advice. Not necessarily your best dad advice, though that helps too. But your best parenting advice, as some of you may know, made this announcement last week that my wife and I are expecting. My wife's due early June, so it's right around the corner. It's really any day now at this stage. So I am seeking the wisdom of the crowd. And I know that this is a wise crowd. This is a smart crowd. And I know that this is a smart crowd because you listen to us. You listen to 580 Sports Talk. And what could be smarter than that? But that's my what I'm throwing it out there for all of you, your best parenting advice, your best dad advice. And if you'd like to share what you've got going on Memorial Day, you can do that as well. And if you've got a question for either myself or Trenton to ask, a little random question, Ask Me Anything, share it in the YouTube live chat. You can share it on the Top City Middle Supply text line, 785-272-9429. But we're going to start the hour with some 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we're going to begin with some high school sports headlines. This is the final week of high school competition for the 2023-24 academic year. There will be state baseball and softball champions crowned tonight in all classes, and there will be track champions that are crowned over the next 2 days. Already some gold medals being handed out today, and there will be more tomorrow at Cessna Stadium. And we'll start there. Two Topeka area athletes bringing home state gold in the 5A boys 3,200 meters. Shawnee Heights' Jackson Esquivel wins gold for a second straight year in that event. The future K-State Wildcat taking first place in the boys 3,200 in Class 5A. The girls 3,200 in 5A. One of the most anticipated events of the entire meet, because you've got two greats running in that 3,200. And this time around, it was Salina Central star Caitlin Roop getting the better of Siemens' Ryan Miller. Miller settling for second as Roop takes gold in the girls' 3,200 meter race. In Class 3A, Jensen Schrickle is a state champion in the long jump. The Hayden Wildcat standout has a chance for a big weekend again after he had a great weekend at state track last year. And he is already a gold medalist in the long jump in Class 3A. On the various diamonds, we'll start with softball, where last night the Seaman Lady Vikes lost a heartbreaker in 9 innings to Mays South, eliminated in round 1 of Class 5A state softball. 6A state softball this afternoon. Washburn Rural was into the semifinals after they beat Blue Valley yesterday. Washburn Rural falling to Olathe Northwest in that semifinal 10-0. So Rural will play for third place. Silver Lake softball into the title game. They took out the top seed, Holcomb, with a 12-2 victory. Silver Lake romping and stomping their way to the 3A softball state final. That is coming up later on today. Trying to see if I can find who it is that they're going to play. And we'll effort that information. But Silver Lake Lady Eagles, big chunk of that team, of course, already a state champions on the hardwood in basketball, and looking to add to their state title total in 3A softball. 3A baseball, Hayden, a 12-5 winner over Hoisington in semifinal action. The Wildcats, Coach Bill Arnold, will play for a state title in Class 3A out in Manhattan. Thanks to Vance and the YouTube live chat for that update. Hayden will play Wichita Trinity for state gold in Class 3A. We spoke about it yesterday. 5A baseball, the Shawnee Heights boys lost their first-round game to Spring Hill and were eliminated. 4A, a couple of teams from the listening area are going to play for state championships. Rock Creek Baseball is into the 4A title game. They are going to play Pratt for the big gold. And 4A girls, 4A softball, the Peyton Hardenberger show is unbelievable. Like there isn't much else to say other than just unbelievable. Peyton Hardenberger, 17-inning complete game with 30 strikeouts to beat Clearwater 2-1 last night. 16 strikeout no-hitter in the semifinal round today as they took out Eudora. Wamego will play Andale Garden Plain for the 4A softball championship. That is your state event update and our first 580 Sports Talk headline. For our next headline, I've looked at the Big 12 baseball tournament. I want to turn to the resident Kansas Jayhawk, Trenton Kraxner. Trenton, KU still alive, jumped out to another big lead today against Oklahoma. Gave it away again. What's the status of the Jayhawks on the diamond right now?
Well, it is the top of the 7th. They're up 6-0 after the first 2 innings. They're pretty much out of arms. So they started. This guy went 4 2/3 and struck out 11 guys. They gave up a 2-run home run and a single. They took him out, and the bullpens completely fell apart. So 6-6 against Oklahoma right now in the top of the 7th. They have a runner on second with no one out. It's a 2-0 count, but my friends have told me that the home plate, one of the umpires got hit in the head with a baseball.
Oh, geez.
So there's a little bit of a delay right now. But yeah, they played 9 a.m. this morning, jumped out to a 9-0 lead after the bottom of the first against TCU. Blew that, but first team, all Big 12 catcher Jake English hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 8th. They won 11-10. A win over Oklahoma here would put them in the championship game tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, either against Oklahoma State, UCF, or Texas Tech. I think those are 3 teams on their side of the bracket.
That's right.
KU needs to win. They need to win against Oklahoma here. Need to win tomorrow, or they're not getting the tournament. The RPI is too low. So hopefully they can pull it out. But I don't know who's going to pitch for them. They might have to throw me out there. They might get, so I don't know.
You got some eligibility? How's the wing? You good to go?
Yeah. I mean, got a year left, so they can put me out there. They get me a flight down there, but I don't know who's going to pitch for them tomorrow if they can get that far.
That is the wild thing about this part of these conference tournaments, because it's a lot of ball in a short amount of time, and it's high leverage. And most of the teams that are lower seeds, like Kansas, who came in as a 7th seed, you burn your best guys pretty early. So you're going to guys who haven't pitched a ton or maybe haven't pitched in a while, and that's how you blow a 9-0 first inning lead. But credit to KU for staying resilient and winning that game. They're in a semifinal game right now. This is their first Big 12 baseball semifinal berth since 2013. So no matter what happens the rest of the way, they can certainly hold their heads high, and they've got a chance to be a bid thief. There are going to be some bid thieves all over the place. Can you imagine? KU finds a way to pull it out and win tomorrow night, and they get a bid, and the bubble shrinks, and K-State gets left home. That could happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think K-State's going to get in, but the bubble is shrinking. Like, I think East Carolina has been eliminated in the American. They were definitely getting in. So somebody's stealing a bid in the American. Bid thieves are everywhere. And it happens a lot more often in baseball, even than it does in basketball. So we'll certainly bear watching. But still tied 6-6 in the 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got the leadoff guy on second. But, I mean, they're running out of options in the bullpen. They might have to score 4 or 5 more to just be even comfortable getting it to the 9th inning.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, if you've already given up a 6-run lead in the game one time, yeah, you can't score enough runs to really feel comfortable. So that is what is going on at the Big 12 baseball tournament. I believe it is Oklahoma State and Texas Tech playing next. That's an elimination game. Winner gets UCF, the 8th seed. They could be a bid thief in this tournament. Winner of that game between UCF and the OK State Tech winner would then play the winner between OU and KU for the conference championship and the automatic bid into the 64-team regionals tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Globe Life Field in Arlington. Let's keep it moving on these 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's talk a little more baseball. Kansas City Royals, as we mentioned, are in action tonight, a 5:50 first pitch, 5 o'clock pregame coverage here on 580 WIBW. The Royals start a series with the Tampa Bay Rays, who are 25-26 on the season. The Royals, of course, come in 32-19. Royals did make a roster move earlier today, recalling reliever Carlos Hernandez from his rehab assignment and designating reliever Tyler Duffy for assignment. So it is Carlos Hernandez rejoining the 26-man roster for the first time this year. He'll be watching from the bullpen as Seth Lugo takes the mound for the Royals tonight against Tampa Bay reliever Sean Armstrong, pitching in an opener role. Here are the starting lineups for this game. It'll be for the Royals, Maikel Garcia at third base, Bobby Witt Jr. at short, and Vinny Pasquantino DHing tonight. Salvador Perez at first base, Michael Massey at second base, Freddie Fermin, who's been swinging a good bat, catching and batting sixth. Nelson Velasquez hits seventh in left field, batting eighth. Hunter Renfroe in right field, and Garrett Hampson getting the start in center field, batting ninth. For Tampa Bay, it's a bunch of dudes I don't immediately know their first names. I'm not going to lie to you. Yandy Diaz, the reigning batting champion in the American League, leading off at first base. Brandon Lau is the second baseman. Johnny DeLuca batting third in right field. Isaac Paredes is the third baseman hitting cleanup. Jonathan Aranda is the DH. Randy Arozarena, who's been in a funk to start this season, bats sixth in left field. Jose Caballero is the shortstop. Alex Jackson doing the catching. And Jose Siri in center field bats ninth for the Rays. First meeting of the year between Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Some more headlines for you here on the 580 Sports Talk headlines. A reworked contract for Raiders star edge rusher Max Crosby. The Raiders are giving Crosby a $6 million raise for his upcoming season without adding any years to his contract. They're also moving $1.2 million from his 2026 deal into the 2025 season. Crosby signed a 4-year extension with $95 million in new money and more than $53 million guaranteed back in 2022. And he has certainly performed to the level of that contract. 27 sacks the last 2 seasons. He was a second-team All-Pro last year after racking up 14 and a half sacks. So the Raiders are moving some money around to make sure that he receives a little extra on the front end of that deal, a $6 million raise without adding any new years or voided years to his contract. In other NFL news, New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones is practicing during the team's OTAs and says he has no doubt he'll be ready for week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, which begs the question, will the Giants be ready for him? Of course, the Giants did not draft a quarterback in last month's NFL draft. They did acquire Drew Lock from the Seattle Seahawks in a trade this offseason. So that is the primary competition for playing time behind Daniel Jones, who, of course, signed a 4-year, $160 million contract last offseason before promptly A, turning into a pumpkin, and B, tearing his ACL. But Jones says that he is ready to go, excited about playing with first-round pick Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU, telling the media, quote, "At the end of the day, I'm focused on playing good football. Some high school football news that directly impacts the two in-state college football programs. Five-star tight end Lincoln Cure out of Goodland is down to 4 schools. He made it official on his social media accounts earlier today. The final 4 for Lincoln Cure: Oregon, Texas A&M, and both K-State and KU. A lot of people who've been in the know on not just recruiting in general, but Cure's recruiting specifically, have long suspected it was down to Oregon, A&M, and K-State. KU breaking in and making it into the top 4, A, good look for KU. B, may have something to do with KU taking his brother in the transfer portal, Leighton Cure, as a walk-on into the tight end room after they suffered some injuries and departures at that position during the spring. Leighton Cure, who played as a freshman, did not play last year due to injury at Fort Hays State, has walked on at KU. And I am sure that that has helped the Jayhawks and Coach Lance Leipold get in the mix a little more for Lincoln Cure. I mentioned he's a 5-star tight end. He just recently got that 5th star from the consensus recruiting rankings. Just goes to show you the old adage is true. If you can play, they're going to find you. If you're really talented, it doesn't matter where you're from. You could be from the biggest city, or you could be from a place as small as Goodland, Kansas. If you can play, if you're the real deal, people will see your film. People will invite you to camps. People will make the effort to go and evaluate you and do so honestly. And it's a pretty cool deal. Place I've spent some time, Goodland, Kansas, has a 5-star football recruit in Lincoln Cure. So he's got his top 4 schools: KU, K-State, Oregon, and Texas A&M. The buzz is that K-State can feel pretty good about where they stand in the process. At a bare minimum, there are some that are even more confident in K-State standing even than that. But the top 4 is official from Lincoln Cure. One more headline to get to, and it's our playoff roundup. Trenton, hit it.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
Spencer here in spirit, if not here in body, taking his day off. Hope he had a safe flight today out to the D.C. area. It is time for the Playoff Roundup, everybody's favorite segment within a segment here on 580 Sports Talk, where we take a look at the previous night's playoff action in the NBA and the NHL. We'll start on the hardwood. Jaylen Brown scores 40 points as the Boston Celtics roll the Indiana Pacers 126-110 to take a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. The road back gets even more difficult if Indiana doesn't have their best player moving forward, and that is a distinct possibility as Tyrese Halliburton left last night's game with a hamstring injury, and his availability moving forward is unclear. The list of players who have missed games or otherwise been compromised because of injury in these playoffs is staggering. Tyrese Halliburton, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Damian Lillard on the same team. Pretty much every Knick. Jamal Murray, Mike Conley, Luka Doncic is playing through it, but he's got leg ailments. Kawhi Leonard has been missed time for Los Angeles, the Clippers, when they were still in it. Lots of injuries, lots of soft tissue injuries. Donovan Mitchell for Cleveland. If I sat here, I could think of even more, but it's been every series has been impacted in some form or fashion by injury to important players. And that's a bummer because you want to see the best players playing at the most important times. It also goes to show you that winning a championship is as much about good fortune and winning a war of attrition as much as it's about just playing your best basketball at this time of year. Would be very unfortunate if the Pacers did not have Halliburton moving forward. It would also make the rest of the Eastern Conference Finals pretty inessential as far as viewing goes because Indiana already looks outclassed, and I have no idea how they'd be able to make up the loss of their most important player. Tonight, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals in Minnesota. Dallas with a 1-0 series lead after they beat Minnesota 108-105 in Game 1. Wolves will try and even it up tonight. In the NHL, working overtime last night. How about 2 overtimes? Didn't take long into the second overtime, though, for the Oilers to defeat the Stars. Connor McDavid scored 32 seconds into OT number 2 to win the game 3-2 and give the Oilers a 1-0 lead in the Western Conference Finals. Edmonton winning in Dallas last night. So both of the road teams were Game 1 winners in the Stanley Cup Conference Finals. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight at Madison Square Garden, where the Florida Panthers lead the New York Rangers 1-0. Trent, you going to watch the NBA game tonight?
It'll be between that and the Royals game for sure.
Sure. You do a little channel flipping. I can't bring myself to watch the Western Conference Finals. I can't bear it. Can't stomach it. Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach, said the same thing at his press conference yesterday. They asked him, "Are you watching it?" He says, "No, I can't watch it." I feel you, coach. I feel you. That's playoff roundup. Those are your 580 Sports Talk headlines here on 580 WIBW. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We will crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion next here on 580 Sports Talk. What the hell is right? It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. It is time to crown our weekly champion of What Is Wrong With You. We have had a wire-to-wire champ so far this week. The finger gun holdup was our Monday winner. Gentleman down in Florida who was acting bad at a Wendy's at 11:30 p.m. went into the place without a shirt on, jumped on the tables, and threatened to hold the place up at gunpoint. But he didn't have any guns. He was just using his fingers, pointing them like guns, and saying he was going to hold the place up. There's a great picture of him like standing on a booth and pointing his hands like guns at somebody in a totally desolate Wendy's. The ultimate reality of the meme, sir, this is a Wendy's. Anyway, we've got 2 new stories today. Trenton will get to participate in What Is Wrong With You today. Your story's gross, Trenton. Go ahead and lay it on us.
Well, it seems like every story that we read is from the state of Florida.
Facts.
So this is a man busted for battery with a soiled diaper.
Oh, no.
Add a soiled adult diaper to the long list of strange items used as weapons during alleged batteries in the free state of Florida. After responding early yesterday, and this is about a week ago, so May 14th, to a reported domestic battery in St. Petersburg, cops gave this account of the alleged incident. The defendant threw a diaper at the victim, striking him in the center of his torso. The diaper contained urine and other feces. Investigators say that the confrontation began when Damian Caston, 18, began arguing with his brother about ongoing domestic issues. Caston, cops reported, is paralyzed but ambulatory by using his upper body. After Caston damaged walls inside the home, he allegedly became aggressive toward his sibling and a witness and attempted to throw items at them. At that point, Caston's brother and the witness lifted and carried the defendant outside for the safety of all and dialed 911. Seen above, Caston then allegedly removed his soiled diaper and threw it at his brother, striking him in the chest. Remnants of the diaper were seen on the front porch and on the stomach of the victim, a police officer noted. No weapon was seized by police, according to the arrest affidavit.
Because who'd want to touch it?
Charged with domestic battery, a misdemeanor, Caston was booked into the county jail, from which he was released last Tuesday afternoon on his own recognizance. Yes, thank you. A judge has ordered Caston to have no contact with his brother and granted the accused man a one-time visit to his home in the presence of police to retrieve his personal belongings.
You know how mad you got to be at somebody to throw your diaper at them? You've got to be just incandescent with rage. We don't know what set off this young man, but something did, because he was being so damaging to the house that they decided, hey, we got to put you out of the house. You can't be in the house right now. We're going to put you out of the house for everybody's sake. And he said, oh, yeah, taste this diaper. Ugh. I bet you didn't think you were going to be reading about urine and other feces on the radio when you took this internship, did you?
No, but listening every day to the What Is Wrong With You stories just really shows how interesting humanity can be.
Yeah.
Especially from the state of Florida, because it feels like they're just living like a whole different reality than we are. Because all of our What Is Wrong With You stories seem to come from the great free state of Florida, as it said in the article.
Jeffrey in the YouTube live chat refers to it as assault with a stinky weapon. That's definitely true. Paul, I see your comment. It's extremely funny. I don't think I can say that, but just know your work is appreciated here. If you're in the YouTube live chat, yeah, Paul, that's really good. That's really funny. Anyway, for my story today, we're going to Indiana, and we go to a wedding reception that no guest is likely soon to forget, especially the guy who got shot at it. Corey Parker, the groom, and Jonathan Goff, a guest at the wedding, were arrested and charged May 18th after Indiana State Police responded to a call for help about a possible drunken shooting at a wedding reception held at Cornerstone Hall. As reported by local NBC affiliate WAVE, that's Wave TV. Shout out to Andy Weingarten. This must be Southern Indiana, near Louisville. Police said the first call to 911 dispatch came from a woman attending the wedding who said Parker had shot her boyfriend while fighting with another man, later identified as Goff. When officers interviewed him, Parker allegedly said his bride left with Goff's wife to return to the hotel. An argument broke out, Parker said, between Goff and his own wife after being accused with flirting with another woman at the wedding. So Goff and his wife were arguing. His wife didn't like the way that he was behaving towards one of the female guests. Police said Parker told them he then decided to leave, and another argument was sparked between Parker and Goff. The men got into a shoving match. Parker reportedly told police he was already in his car, where a firearm was in the center console, when Goff started successfully forcing his way into the vehicle. In what the groom described as a moment of, quote, rustle and bustle, great description, the gun went off and hit a man at the reception hall in the hand. So not even the guy he was mad at, just some random wedding guest. That man was later hospitalized. Police said he was the boyfriend of the woman who first called police about the ruckus. Police said Parker told him he didn't mean to shoot the man. Court records show Parker and Goff were charged with felony criminal recklessness committed with a deadly weapon and battery resulting in bodily injury. I'm a married man. I've been married close to 2 years now. My second anniversary is coming up here in a couple of weeks. Wedding was the best day of my life. I truly mean that. I never got to a point where I was going to end up shooting somebody at the end of my wedding. I am so grateful that my wedding guest didn't act the fool to the point where any random bystander got shot at my wedding, and then to be the one to have done it. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I guess I understand you want everybody to chill out at your wedding, but maybe don't get into an argument. And maybe if you're at the wedding, don't argue with the groom. Let the groom be.
Why do you have a gun at a wedding? You know, like what's the point? Right? You expected to like get into fisticuffs or whatever?
He just had the gun. He keep that thing on him. You know, these people. That is, I think that's written into the Constitution, the right to keep that thing on you. And it was in his center console. I don't know why you go to the car anyway. Like, just he's trying to de-escalate, and then things escalate, and the gun goes off, and some random person gets shot at your wedding. Dopes. Anyway, I think that wins today just because I don't want to think about the diaper story ever again. But does that beat the finger gun holdup?
I wouldn't say so. I think a finger gun story, like, why? What goes through your mind, and what possible drugs are you on if you're going into a Wendy's basically at midnight and without a shirt, you know, with your finger guns? It's just like you can't get beyond that. Like, I think that still wins the week.
I'm with you, sir. This is a Wendy's, the finger gun holdup. That is our weekly champion, a wire-to-wire winner on What Is Wrong With You. We're going to take a break. When we come back, little Ask Me Anything. Get your questions in and get your parenting advice into yours truly. I'm going to need it here in a couple of weeks in the YouTube live chat or on the Top City Metal Supply text line at 785-272-9429. We'll have a little fun as we round out this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up the week on 580 Sports Talk, 441 on this Friday. We're done at 5 today for Royals baseball. I'm Dan. Trenton's across the glass. Just the two of us today. We can make it if we try. We've only got 19 more minutes. So we're definitely going to make it. We can see the finish line from here. We can see a 3-day weekend from here. So we decided that we'd have a little fun with this last segment of the program and talk a little Memorial Day, talk a little Ask Me Anything. We'll take some questions about anything you want to ask about in the YouTube live chat. If you're watching on YouTube right now, youtube.com/580 Sports Talk, or on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Trenton, we did change my mind earlier today. This was a change my mind. Summer starts on Memorial Day weekend. I know not officially, but also I think Memorial Day weekend is the start of summer. Am I onto something?
No, I would agree with that. I worked as a lifeguard the local pool the past couple years, and they always open on Memorial Day, and I feel like that's really what kicks off summer because everyone's out of school,
right?
Even in those larger districts. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would agree that Memorial Day is really like the start of the feel of summer.
Yeah, you got day baseball on Memorial Day, Indy 500 if that's your bag. It starts to feel like summer, even though it may not be officially summer. The pool's open, all that good stuff. So I think that this is the start of the summer months, the Memorial Day weekend. No real big plans for me. Going to make sure we get a little landscaping done. We're opening our pool. We're trying to make sure that's all settled. I don't know that we'll be able to fully use it this weekend, but hey, you never know. But other than that, I intend to take it easy. And with a wife who's 38 and a half weeks pregnant, she's of course going to take it easy. So by we have landscaping to get done, what I really mean is I have landscaping to get done. Text from the 785 says they're going to barbecue and chill and watch some winning baseball. Love that. Royals and Rays this weekend. Jason earlier on the YouTube live chat said he's going to head out to the farm to see his folks and do a little fishing. Good Memorial Day activity. I've never been a big lake person. I didn't grow up around a lake and didn't know anybody with like a boat. So I didn't do the lake or the reservoir thing, but I know that's a big deal. It's to be a good lake weekend. Shouldn't be too oppressively hot. Hopefully it doesn't rain too bad. So those of you who have outdoor plans, lake plans, fishing plans, hope the weather holds up for you. I also solicited parenting advice. Again, that is right around the corner. My wife's due date is at the beginning of June. And so fatherhood is bearing down on yours truly. So I solicited on the Top City Metal Supply text line your best parenting advice. And here is what you said. From the 785, be chill, roll with the punches, help with the baby when you can, but focus on your wife. Good advice. I think rolling with the punches is something I tend to be pretty good at by and large. Hopefully that remains the case here in a couple of weeks. Also from the 785, no advice can be given. Just know being a parent is the best thing ever. You're going to do great. Congratulations, Dan, praying for a smooth delivery. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much for that text, Dan, from the 785. Another one from the 785, stock up on sleep as much as you possibly can, both you and the missus. That's good. Generally good strategy. We really like our lazy mornings. Like my wife is a teacher, so she's a much more wired to be a morning person than me. I am not. I am much more night owl than morning person. That will help, I think, a little bit in some capacities, like those 2:30 feedings that are coming around the bend. But yeah, mornings are always tough for me. I used to do morning drive when I worked in Wichita. When I worked in sports radio in Wichita, I did morning drive from 6 to 9 with fellow 580 Sports Talk alumnus Alex Gold. We did mornings together. And that was always a tough one for me, man. There wasn't enough coffee in the world to get me sometimes all the way revved up for that first hour. I didn't really hit my stride until like 7:30, 7:45 on those days. Another one from the 785. Moving car seats is one of the most painful tasks known to man. Buy as many as you need, install them properly, and do not move them ever again. Yeah, I appreciate that. We went, they had an event out at the Discovery Center here in town where they help you install your car seats. My wife and I went. We each got the seats installed in our respective vehicles. And then my wife turned to me and says, you have a dad car now. I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. You have a mom car. So what? But she's taunting me a little bit. But we do have the bases are installed. They're in there pretty solid. I feel good about it. I feel good about where we're at with the car seats. It was strenuous for a time, for that brief period of time. You really got to pull it tight, but I think we're set. More from the 785. The best thing you can give your child is your time. Be in the moment wherever you are, whenever you are with them. It is a him, by the way. It is a he. We do know we're having a boy. That is great advice. My wife has been giving me a hard time for as long as we've known each other about my social media addiction. I love Twitter. I like to read. What it really is I like to read, and Twitter is words. So I'm on Twitter a lot. Even if I'm not tweeting as much as I used to, I am on my phone a lot. I do read Twitter a lot. It is a habit I've been trying to break, but it's a hard habit to break because, there are worse habits to have. But this is probably going to be the thing that gets me to post on social media way less. This will probably be the thing that really breaks me of this habit. And I know that that is what Abby is hoping for. More parenting advice from the 785. Ask Jake. Believe me, I have. I've asked all of my friends. This texter goes on to say, trust me, your first will turn you into a helicopter. Your second will cure you of that. And also asking, what are we having? We are having a boy. We do know that. No name picked out yet. So he's just been baby boy Lucero for the last few months. But it is a boy. And that's something that we're pretty excited about. As far as Ask Me Anything goes, we have an Ask Me Anything question here from the 785. The question is, describe your journey to DePauw University. How's a kid from Colorado wind up at a small college in central Indiana? Couple of things. I knew what I wanted to do in college. I knew what I wanted my college experience to be. I knew that I wanted to be involved in student media. I wanted to do radio, TV, newspaper. I knew I wanted a career in media. And so that was my priority as far as not even so much a major. As long-term listeners may know, I have a history degree. I don't have a communications or a journalism degree. My degree's in history. But I wanted to be involved with student-run media. And so that was a big part of how I chose the school. And the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to play baseball. And I was not a proficient enough ball player to get any Division I or Division II attention. There were a couple of junior colleges that sniffed around, a couple of D3 schools, and DePauw's Division III. And I had an opportunity everybody's a walk-on in Division III. So I had an opportunity to go play at a smaller school. And so I knew that to do the things I wanted to do was going to have to be a smaller school. And they don't have those small liberal arts colleges. There aren't a lot of them in the state of Colorado. There really aren't any. So I knew I was going to have to leave Colorado and look out towards the Midwest for a school that would fill my needs. And DePauw was a school that just kept coming up. Every search I did, every time I would go through list of best colleges for this and that, and it just kept coming up, and it kind of felt meant to be a little bit. I went and toured it. It was the right fit. So that is why I chose DePauw, and again, proud DePauw Tiger. Another Ask Me Anything from 785. How fast can you do the 100-meter sprint? Even at my most athletic, texter, I was not the most fleet of foot. I have never been particularly swift. That was never my stock in trade as an athlete. My old joke was I wasn't really an athlete. I was a baseball player. It's a John Crook bit. I think that's what the title of his book was. I ain't an athlete, lady. I'm a baseball player. That was my old joke, but it was really true for me. I was a terrible distance runner. I could never get the 800 in enough time. I'm not sure I was much faster than 13 seconds running a 100. If I ever ran it better than 13, even at my fastest and most athletic, that would have been an upset. So not my event, that's for sure. Thank you for the question. Trent, did you ever run the 100?
I only did track in middle school. I did high jump. I think I did long jump for a little bit, and then I ran the 200 and a relay.
Okay.
I was not very good at track. I'm in your boat. I was a big baseball guy.
Okay.
Football and basketball as well, but baseball is my favorite sport. So I was not big into track. That's definitely for sure. So I would not call myself a sprinter. I mean, I would say I was about average speed. So if I had to guess on how fast I could run a 100, I'd say 15 seconds, maybe, at the time when I did track, in 7th and 8th grade. So, but I don't know. I wasn't much of a sprinter either.
So we used to do the 60. They ever make you do the 60 in baseball?
Yeah, a couple camps I went to.
Yeah. So my best 60 time, I think, was like 7.7, 7.8. So that was, and I played with guys like my best friend ran it like 6.7. He could burn. But no, I was a full second slower than the real fast guys. So yeah, that was never my event. Follow up. How fast do you think Brendan could do it? We're going to have to ask him that question. I don't want to answer that question in a way that would be mean or unfair to Brendan. Brendan, though, is in pretty good shape. Like I think he does some work. And like he when we were all quarantining, he did what he called Quarantine Fit Club, and he ran and did push-ups and got himself in pretty good shape. I think he could probably beat me in 100 right now. Right, like today, I think he could beat me in 100. Which is fine, I guess. Like I'm out of shape. What can I tell you? I'm waiting for my dad's strength to kick in is what I'm doing. Follow up to the follow up. Will I race Spencer? I will beat Spencer. I would cook Spencer in the 100. We have long joked about doing a combine, a 580 Sports Talk combine. And we might have to actually do that this summer. Get some video content and do the combine. Do the 580 Sports Talk combine. I think I can beat Spencer in the 100. I don't know if I'm beating Brendan, but I'm cooking Spencer. I promise you that. Anyway, appreciate all of the great questions and the great parenting advice. I really do appreciate that. I'm going to miss you guys while I'm gone. Not yet. Not going anywhere yet. Plan is still for me to be here Tuesday with everybody else when we return. But I appreciate the advice, and I will take it all to heart. Believe me, this is our first, and we're terrified, but we're also excited. One more break. We'll come back with a final word to wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up the week on 580 Sports Talk. We're done an hour early. It's not all of a sudden almost 6 o'clock. Do not adjust your clocks. We are getting out of the way for Royals baseball. Royals and Rays tonight. 5:50 first pitch 5 o'clock pregame coverage here on 580 WIBW. Shout out to those of you who texted in, say you plan to listen to the Royals on your Memorial Day weekend. And we appreciate you tuning in here to the home of Royals baseball since 1969, 580 WIBW. Final word for me today, a short one about the Royals. This is another proving ground series for them. This is a team that the Royals should be able to take 2 out of 3 of. The pitching matchups, I think, line up pretty well. The Rays are struggling. They're not hitting very well. Royals pitching should be able to handle their lineup. The Royals can get 2 out of 3 this weekend. They're going to increase their playoff odds. And history says being this good at this stage and being in a playoff spot augurs pretty well for playing October baseball. And it is amazing we are having that conversation about the Kansas City Royals just 1 year removed from a 106-loss season. This is not the same team in so many ways, and they've got another opportunity. And behind Seth Lugo, they're going to try and get the weekend kicked off right tonight. Again, 5:50 first pitch here on 580 WIBW. That'll do it for us. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. As Mark said in the YouTube live chat, remember the reason for Memorial Day. Take some time to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice in defending our country this weekend. And enjoy yourself. Travel safe. For Trenton, I'm Dan. The whole gang will be back on Tuesday. We're all off Monday. This is 580 Sports Talk.